How's it going, guys and girls, ladies and gentlemen? Have you ever wondered how much house can you afford in the United States, or how much can you afford in the United States in terms of affordability? What are some of the places you need to be careful of, and some places you absolutely need to embrace, whether you're here for work, education, or just a sightseer? This is your guide, which will get you to everything you need to know about affordability in the United States. So let's get into it. So, I'm actually going to have a lot of things to cover for you guys, and I'm going to make myself a little small here towards the right hand side corner. And as you can see, we have so much material for you guys, and I don't want to make this video to be too long, so let's get into it. It's a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of great stuff that's going to answer a lot of questions in your mind. We're going to be talking about converting your cash to dollars, university or institution you choose if you're here to study, whether that institution is public or private, and how that affects your finances, the geographical area you're going to be considering, the healthcare costs, very important to know, the travel and transportation needs. It works a little different here than your home country, maybe not, but it's good for you to understand that. And last, you need to understand how much can you afford in the sense of how much can you bring in. So what is your salary going to be like in case you are lucky to be able to afford a job for yourself here? So let's get into it. Converting your cash to dollars. So this is our first factor in talking about affordability. There are a lot of people who might be going to your home country's private bank or credit union or whatever that is, and they're all going to be offering you offers for a free money exchange. But I want you to think again, they're not really free. I want you to know that there's a lot of transaction fees that's baked into that, a lot of miscellaneous expenses that are baked into that. So please consult a lot of options that are out there. Ask your uncle, ask that aunt that you've never talked to in a while, because they might have just what you need in terms of understanding where you need to get your money exchanged. So get on that quick. Next, let's talk about the university or the institution you choose. It's very important to understand that the United States, if you're coming here, and particularly the United States, is a fantastic destination. Let me say that again. It's a fantastic destination. It's got good people, great values, and countless opportunities to learn. But you need to understand that every educational institution has its own acceptance criteria, has its own definition of what they term as a student who is fit to be in their program. And that's going to be a wild factor, because let's say you get accepted in a university which is in New York City. Great for you. And you get accepted in another university, which is in St. Louis, Missouri. Hey, shout out. I love St. Louis, Missouri. Never been there, but heard great things about it. However, when you talk about those two universities, you might compare the course curriculum and professors and everything you need in that city or not. However, when you talk about finances, you're going to have a wildly different estimate, because St. Louis, Missouri is a lot more humble cost of living when you talk about comparing it to something as grand as New York City. And we're going to get into some numbers here, so I just want you to keep that in the back of your head. Talking about a secondary point to whether a university or institution you choose is a factor, is another factor, which is whether that university or institution is a public institution or a private one. Because you will be amazed to know, on an average, a lot of public institutions will have a lot more relaxed standards of affordability when you talk about your finances. And for lack of a better term, they're going to be a little bit cheaper than more of the private institutions out there. So that's your choice to make. A good factor to consider, though. Now we come to geographical area, and this is where all the fun starts, right? We all have a great idea of where we want to go, and we all watch movies in Hollywood and Los Angeles and San Francisco and the Silicon Valley and the amazing beauty that the Northwest has to offer in Montana and Idaho, and the suave nature of New York City, and there's something about it to be there. But we all need to understand that all this comes at a cost, and the cost is whether you're going to be in a city or suburban area. And we're going to talk a little bit about the four most expensive cities in the U.S., the four least expensive cities in the U.S. It's actually a top 10, and their average living expenses in your top two destinations in the U.S. So let's compare that real quick. Your 10 most expensive cities in the U.S., and this is just a compilation of a lot of stuff that I've looked at on the internet, but I think this holds true even today. This video has been made in October 2020, but I think most of you who are living in the United States right now will agree with me on this list. So as you look at it, you find the top two destinations, the most expensive destinations happen to be San Francisco and New York City. And you cannot debate the fact that when you're in San Francisco and New York City, boy, the price of housing is at an all-time high right now. Whether it's you're buying, whether you're renting, or whether you're just bunking in a house with one of your roommates, you will pay substantial amount of money, and that will be a substantial more amount than what you would pay in some other parts of the United States. If you look at the top 10 list, you'll find a lot of destinations which you might be hearing of now and then. You've got Oakland, California, you got Boston, Massachusetts, you got Washington, District of Columbia, Washington, you got San Jose, California, you got Seattle, you got Honolulu, and the list goes on. And what I want you to get out of this is these are the top 10 most expensive, but it is on you to research where you are going and how that will affect your standard of living. Talking about your living expenses, and just referring back to the list. I mean, if you kind of do a little bit more research on your end, you should be able to get to the four least expensive cities in the United States. I don't want to cover that in this video, but I want you guys to go and do some of that homework at home. When we compare the cost of living expenses, it works a lot different than other countries. So I just wanted to say that if you're coming here new and if you want to understand, I think you need to understand certain parameters that you need to evaluate your monthly budget on, and it's very, very important. So here I have a list of comparing New York average cost to San Francisco average cost, and we have looked at it from 4 different perspectives, or 5 different perspectives, if you will. We've got a single person per month, we've got a single person per year, and then we've done the same thing for a university student, because obviously we're big on helping you guys with your education here in the United States. And then we've done something for a 4-person family per month and a 4-person family per year. So as you can see, New York and San Francisco are not too different. However, these are, again, keep in mind, the top 2 most expensive cities in the United States. So if you guys are planning your finances according to these estimates that I'm showing here on the screen, you should be just fine anywhere else in the United States. And what I mean by that is anywhere other than New York and San Francisco that you are in the United States, you're going to be paying a lot less than these costs here. So it's crazy when you look at a single person per year in New York, you're looking at $16,200. You're looking at $14,368 for San Francisco. For a 4-person family, you're looking at a per month expenses of about $5,000, about $5,100 in San Francisco. And for the whole year, you're looking at about $50,000 for a 4-person family in San Francisco versus $49,000. So not too wildly different. They're both almost around the same. But I think for all our students who are watching this video, very important for you guys to understand that this university student per month will also vary wildly in which zip code or which you can call it a colony, you can call it a neighborhood inside of that New York City or San Francisco city are you living in. So just make sure that these are very conservative from a student standpoint. From a student standpoint, these are very conservative numbers here, $894 per month or $952 per month. These are going to vary wildly if you're in a dorm room versus if you're bunking on with your roommates. So just a word of caution, these might be inflated in real life. Why do we want to talk about healthcare when we're talking about factors about living in the United States? Because it's important. And guess what? Yes, you definitely will need healthcare at some point in time. Well, it's great if you will not, but if you do, healthcare here works wildly different. And what I say by wildly different is it could be the same as in your home country, it could not be. But it's good for you to understand that that United States, first of all, offers world-class healthcare. There's no doubt about it. You talk about physicians, you talk about the facilities, you talk about the hospitals, you talk about ambulatory surgical centers, you talk about medical devices, you talk about pharmaceutical companies. You're going to get the absolute best that's available in the world to you. However, you need to understand that if you pay out of your pocket, which is true for a lot of countries in the world because they don't have a set infrastructure, you will have to pay an arm and a leg. In other words, a metaphor for saying you're going to have to pay a lot of money if you want to go that route, which is why I highly, highly advise you guys to either get healthcare insurance from your home country or when you come over to the United States, whether you're here for travel, for work assignments, for education, or you're here to permanently migrate, please, please take your healthcare very seriously. It is also a big push from the government to have everybody healthcare, and you should pay for it. So I highly encourage all you guys to have that nailed down so you don't incur that unexpected $5,000 bill at the end of a month and no clue on how to pay it back. Don't want to be there. Talking about travel and transportation needs, I'm from India, so we all know how traffic in India is. You just need a bicycle to get to from point A to point B. You really don't need anything else, but the willingness to get there. Okay, that's kind of true of anywhere. But I want you to understand that when you're here, you kind of almost count car as a must-have rather than something which is good to have. So in other words, in a lot of countries where cars are supposed to be items or symbols of luxury, it's almost a necessity in the United States. Part of it happens to be because of extreme weather conditions in a lot of states in the United States. You don't want to be out on a bicycle when it's below 30 and it's snowing. No, that's just not going to be fun for you. You might not get home without getting frozen. So that's totally up to you if that's your jam, but I would highly suggest invest in something which is affordable, which brings us to what is affordable. So let's look at some of the costs here. You know, a new car, a Toyota Corolla, a very, very popular car in the United States today, costs about $18,000. That's a lot of money, guys. So keep in mind, it's not going to be super cheap, yet you need to come up with a good balance of spending just the enough amount of money that you need to spend to get to where you want to get to. If you want to get a bus ticket, if you're going to get a monthly bus transport, I suggest that to everybody who's moving here first. It's about $100 to $150 a month, a monthly bus pass, and it's a great way to sightsee, to explore your city, your suburb, your countryside, or your city. And from there on, just understand your needs and go from there. But I would say in general, owning and maintaining a vehicle, once you get to a point where you have a sustainable income for yourself, is not too difficult, as long as we don't get carried away by some of those flashy commercials. We're all there. Anyway, okay. And now, lastly, I want you to look at what are some potential what are some potential numbers we can draw from taking an average of some of the salaries around the country. And this is only if you're able to come here and able to be a worker. It's a whole different conversation we're going to talk about in some other video. But if you are here legally, and you're here to be able to afford a good job for yourself, I would totally look at these numbers and understand what your standard of living is going to be. Now, when you look at these numbers, I don't want you to feel like these are the numbers that you will make, but these are some of the numbers that you should allocate at least 30% off to a savings account, a rainy day fund, guys. Very, very important to save some money and keep it aside. So when I say that a cashier on an average earns an annual salary of $26,000, do not go out there and buy a car for $20,000 when you're earning $26,000. Do not do that. So, perspective, right? We all got to be smart. But on an average, I kind of looked at some of the most common paying jobs in the United States. I took an average across all the highest paying states and the lowest paying states, and this is the number that we land on, what you see on the screen. So you'll see that a lot of jobs kind of are very good paying jobs. A product manager job, close to 100K, very, very well-paying job. A web developer, about 80 grand. Software engineer, about $100,000 again. But anyways, wherever it is that you land your first job, you need to be, this is just a ballpark to help you understand what you can make if you land one of these professions. But it's very important as a general rule, no matter how much you earn, Save 30% for that rainy day fund, and you're going to be happy. And this is it. This concludes our today's session. I just am very happy that I was able to come here and talk to you guys about it. I had this on my mind for a long time, and hopefully it helps out all you guys, whether you're traveling, you're here for work assignment, or you're here to just sightsee, especially for those students who are pursuing higher education. Drop your comments below. Help me understand what else do you want me to answer. We're going to continue in our series of higher education, but hope this video just helps all of you out there. Thank you. Have a good day, guys.